Electric vehicle versus petrol car. Which one actually save you more money in Malaysia? Well, I have the privilege of owning an EV and a petrol car, so I ran the real numbers: electricity rate, petrol prices, maintenance and everything, and here is the result. Guess what? It's not what I expected at all. So by the end of this video, you'll know which vehicle wins, and if you've been thinking about switching from the petrol to electric car, this could help you make a better decision. By the way, just to let you know, this video is done in partnership with Proton e.MAS in line with their latest launch of the entry-level Proton e.MAS 5. So we are mainly going to use this car as the example for all the calculations. You see, EV adoption is speeding up in Malaysia. In the past, you barely see any EV cars, but today there's more and more. In fact, 5 years ago, many of these EVs were luxury vehicles. You only get it from Tesla, BMW, BYD, the higher end one. But now, local brands like Proton e.MAS are launching entry-level EVs. The recent e.MAS 5 is launched as 56,800 ringgit. That's literally a price of a Pro Dual Ativa, one of the many entry-level vehicles that people pick from today. And it's not just about having cheaper option entry-level EV, but today, with petrol subsidies starting to change, there is a real reason why many are starting to switch towards EV. So let's start with the real question. How much does it really cost to own an EV car? Let's compare two cars in the same price range. A Proton e.MAS 5 fully electric and a B-segment hatchback petrol car. The Proton e.MAS 5 runs on a 40.16 kilowatt-hour battery, and the B-segment hatchback petrol car uses a 36-litre tank. Assuming electricity costs around 54 cents per kilowatt, while petrol costs 1 ringgit and 99 cents per litre, a fully charged EV will cost roughly around 21 ringgit and 60 cents, while a full tank of petrol is about 71 ringgit and 60 cents. That is 1/3 of the price of a full tank of petrol. Now let's talk about range. An e.MAS 5 will give you around 300 kilometers of range, while B-segment hatchback petrol car can go around 400 kilometers. So for about the same distance, you're actually paying around 1/3 of the cost to drive an electric car. So let's run some math. Assuming if you drive 1,500 kilometers a month, you'll be spending around 270 ringgit on petrol. But if you own an EV like Proton e.MAS 5, you will be spending around 100 ringgit on charging. So that is about 170 ringgit saved every month, roughly around 2,000 ringgit a year. That is for traveling. But what about maintenance? With a petrol car, you have engine oil, spark plug, gearbox, fuel, and all the stuff that you need to replace regularly, including brake pads and so on. But with an EV, generally there's none of that. You see, a petrol car can easily cost you around 800 to 1,000 ringgit a year just for servicing. But with an EV like Proton e.MAS 5, well, you're looking at roughly about 270 ringgit a year of maintenance, averaging it out. In other words, you will save roughly around 700 ringgit a year. If you're wondering why is it like that, well, for many of you, you probably know that in a petrol vehicle, there are a lot more parts, a lot more things that need to be serviced, including brakes, right? But for an EV, there's very little parts. And in fact, most of the servicing is actually inspection to see whether things are okay or not. On top of that, one of the most expensive components is actually brakes. In a petrol car, you have to press your brake often to stop the car, but in an EV, it is regen system. So what happens is that just by lifting off your pedal from the acceleration, the car will slowly brake by itself. This means you actually rarely use the brake pads. So for EVs, you don't really change brake pads that much compared to a petrol car. That's why for most EV owners, after a few years also never change brakes one. That saves up a huge chunk of money from maintenance. Anyway, all these are just cost saving. And let's not forget, time is also money. So comparing to petrol car where you need to send your car for servicing regularly, EV you don't need to, so you also save time as well. Now, like I say, I do have a petrol car, I also have an EV car. With my petrol car, I actually have to stop at the station once or twice a week to go and pump petrol. You know, refueling, pay, and then plan out my time to go and pump petrol first. While it's quite convenient, but it also does take up time, right? But ever since I drove an EV, I don't need to do that anymore. I just go home, plug in my EV at night, and by morning, it's already fully charged. I would say that easily saves about 1 or 2 hours of my time every month, and that is something that money can't buy. But here's the thing, while we think that owning an EV is all a bed of roses, that's not entirely true. There are also certain upfront costs that people don't talk about, and it can feel a little bit painful in the beginning. The first thing to point out is the need for a wall charger. If you own an EV, you really want to have a proper wall charger at home. Generally, depending on your car manufacturer, the cost for a wall charger is roughly about 2,000 over to 5,000 ringgit. Now, for our partner in this video, the Proton e.MAS 5, currently the wall box is actually included, so yay, you get to save some money. But that's not all the cost. There's still one part of the cost that you need to take into account, which is the installation. The installation of an EV wall charger at home usually costs in between 1,500 to 2,000 ringgit. It's a one-time cost, and for some of you, you may heard about the changing your electric phase into 3-phase or single phase, and that is another added cost. Well, just to let you know, I installed it at home with a single phase and I have no problem so far. Just make sure you don't always
maximum voltage of charging lah.
Anyway, for those of you who are ready to fork out these costs, here is the good news. Actually, there's still a tax relief for EV charger installation up to 2,500 ringgit, valid until 2027. So with that in mind, well, I think government is really giving a lot of incentive for us to change into an EV.
So cepat-cepat if you're really considering it lah.
And here's another thing, once you own an EV, there are certain things that you can do to actually save a little bit of money. So here's a pro tip, right? TNB currently offer this off-peak hours for electric usage. And for weekdays, it's usually at night, in between 10 o'clock at night all the way until the second day, if I'm not wrong, at 2 p.m. So here's what I do. Every night when I come home, I wait until 10 p.m. Then I plug my charger in so that I can charge my car. By the time I wake up, my car is fully charged. And with that, I'm only paying about 44 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's really much cheaper. On top of that, you're also doing a national favor by balancing out the grid lah, instead of everyone surging and charging all at the same time in the daytime. So when you have all these things in place, I would say owning an EV, it's quite convenient. So by now, some of you may be wondering, what if you can't install a home charger? Then should you actually switch to an EV? Well, maybe you're living in a condo, or maybe your home wiring doesn't support one. Well, don't worry, I do have quite many friends who actually own an EV right now but do not have a home charger. Because today, the EV charging infrastructure is much more matured compared to 5-6 years ago. All you need to do is just do a little bit of planning. First, you need to understand every different EV charging provider will have a different rate. So it depends on where you charge, you will get charged a little bit differently. And we have compiled a table here for your easy reference. Feel free to pause this video and check it out. Or if you prefer I create a document that all of you can download, well, just comment EV down below. Most public charger today cost anywhere between 1 ringgit to 1 ringgit and 70 cents per kilowatt hour, and it depends on the speed. Naturally, the faster charger will be a little bit more expensive and the slower charger will be slightly cheaper, but this also depends on the provider and the location. And here's something that many people do not know. When it comes to EV vehicle, many of the manufacturers have their own partnership with certain brands to create an ecosystem to make it easier for you to charge your vehicle or cheaper to charge your vehicle. So you gotta do your own research. But when it comes to our partner in this video, Proton e.MAS, well, here's something exciting. They actually partner with 5 charging providers to offer affordable condo charging at around 70 cents per kilowatt hour. So even if you're relying on a public charger without a home charger, your cost per kilometer is still gonna be comparable to or even lower than petrol. And all of this is gonna be about planning ahead for your charging routine. And so yes, by now you hear the word planning quite a bit. The point is this: owning an EV does require you to plan your charging route and how you're gonna go about with it. When you can do that, it's gonna be much cheaper and affordable. Now that we're done talking about the financial cost, I want to highlight something that doesn't show up on a calculator. It is about the feeling of driving. If you watched my previous video, you know that I've actually spent some money to actually soundproof my petrol car. The goal is simply to make it more peaceful when I drive around. Less noise lah, huh? But today with an EV, there is no need for that because EV are naturally a lot more silent. There's not going to be much of an engine noise, vibration, and so on. So naturally, it feels luxurious. And the best part is this, the price is actually an affordable one. By now you can see owning an EV does save you money, but just how much and what can you do with it? Well, firstly, when it comes to petrol costs, it's gonna save you about 170 ringgit a month. That makes up to about 2,000 ringgit a year. And then the maintenance cost, that's also gonna save you around 700 to 800 ringgit a year. So in total, you get to save around 3,000 ringgit every year. Since I'm a big advocate for investment, if you invest that 3,000 ringgit every year into a vehicle that gives you around 5% annual return, well, after 10 years, you will almost save around 39,000 ringgit. So you're not just saving fuel money and maintenance money, but you get to save money for future as well. However, there are also other variable things, such as you must not keep getting into accident, and stuff like that, or like every 3-4 years you go and change the car, then that may change the calculation. But under normal circumstances, if you can keep this EV for 10 years, well, basically that could be what you're looking at. And so allow me, and this time, to give a quick shout out to Proton e.MAS. Move into EV recently. It's not just about having a new technology, but what they want to do is to make EV ownership realistic for Malaysian. Well, you're looking at an EV below 60,000 ringgit, so it's entry-level price. And by doing that, they are also addressing a few concerns. Firstly, they keep the production local, that way it's affordable, but also supports Malaysian industry. And number two, because it is local, so it should mean a better service, right? The point is, with the new Proton e.MAS 5, going electric today doesn't have to be expensive. It can be more smarter and practical and proudly Malaysian as well. So here's the thing, in the past, EV has always been something that's out of reach for many people, but today with e.MAS 5, well, things are changing. More and more people can own an EV even at the entry-level price. So the financial savings of owning an EV is accessible today. Now, being an owner of both a petrol car and an EV vehicle, I have to say, for me, I love it because it saves up a lot of time, a lot of stress of maintenance every single month, and the drive is just very enjoyable because it's quiet, and it also frees up some extra cash that I can actually invest with. So I will say that this is probably the first time that with the Proton e.MAS 5, an EV can make financial sense for many Malaysians. So what do you think? Are you team EV or team petrol? Which one do you think you should choose? Let us know in the comments below.